After the Germans surrendered on May 5, 1945, the bloodbath began in earnest. 15 million Germans were forced to leave their ancestral homes in Eastern Europe, including German East Prussia, parts of Poland, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, Hungary, and Romania, headed for Germany, leaving all their property behind. 3 million of them died during the trek to Germany as a result of brutal assaults, mass murder, wholesale rape, starvation, and exposure. Quote, "God, I hate the Germans," closed quote, General Eisenhower wrote in a letter to his wife in September 1944. And he repeatedly expressed such sentiments to others, and not just about German military personnel, but about all Germans. 5.5 million German soldiers were taken prisoner by the Americans under Eisenhower. 1 month before the end of the war, Eisenhower issued special orders concerning the treatment of German prisoners. The following specific statement was contained within his orders. Quote, "Prison enclosures are to provide no shelter or other comforts." Closed quote. These German POWs were herded into vast barbed wire enclosures in open fields along the Rhine River without shelter of any kind. He also ordered that they not be given water or food for 6 days after being herded into these compounds, and therefore only starvation rations, even though the Americans had vast stores of food on hand. The prisoners slept on the ground in rain and snow and were provided no medical care. It is estimated that 1.7 million of these German prisoners died of starvation, gangrene, frostbite, and exposure during the year that they were held in American captivity. Jewish vengeance. When the Germans were beaten and the fighting stopped in Europe, the Jews flooded into Germany by the thousands to seek their revenge and to obtain their share of the spoils. They immediately began the implementation of the Morgenthau Plan, a Jewish vengeance plan to destroy the German economy, subdivide Germany into several smaller states, enslave millions of her citizens, and exterminate as many as 20 million people. Though the plan was toned down by saner heads, most of it was implemented as Joint Chiefs of Staff Directive, JCS 1067, with brutal consequences for the German people. Jews flooded into the Nuremberg trials and used it as a means of exacting vengeance on the German leadership. It was reported that of the 3,000 people who participated in the trials, 2,400 of them were Jews. Working just behind their Gentile frontmen, the Jews could do whatever they wanted, while the defeated, starving, prostrate Germans were without any means of defending themselves. The Jewish Brigade. Then there was the Jewish Brigade that not many people know about today or have ever known about. Formed in Palestine, outfitted in British Army uniforms and riding in American jeeps, they followed the Allies as they pushed the Germans out of Italy back into Germany. The officers and senior NCOs of the Jewish Brigade were British Jews, but the ordinary soldiers were Palestinian Jews, a great number of whom were of German origin. The story of the Jewish Brigade is a sordid one which ought to have gotten more publicity. The brigade was established not to fight in the war, but to enter into Germany behind the British Army to take revenge on the now disarmed and defenseless Germans. After entering defeated Germany, they formed up into what they called vengeance squads to track down and kill senior German officers. The Jewish Brigade was technically part of the British 8th Army, but operated independently and took their orders from Zionist leaders in Tel Aviv. Using their British uniforms and British Army credentials, they traveled around Germany and Austria hunting down and killing high-ranking German officers. The Jewish Brigade had unlimited logistical support from the British Army, could requisition anything they needed, and traveled anywhere in Germany or Austria in an official capacity, though they were totally unaccountable to the British Army. All of Germany's official records were now in the hands of the Allies, which the Jewish Brigade had ready access to. Moreover, they knew the German language and could read the German files. After obtaining the home addresses of German officers from these official files, they then drove to their homes in the American jeeps, representing themselves as British officials, and when they found the officers they were looking for, they killed them. By this time, the German army had capitulated, and the officers and enlisted men who were not still detained in POW camps had put down their arms and gone home. They were unarmed and completely defenseless. According to Morris Beckman, in his book The Jewish Brigade, quote, "These were the first post-war executions of selected top Nazis. There were several dozen revenge squads operating. The highest estimate of executions was 1,500. The exact figure will never be known." Closed quote. There were no charges filed against these German officers, no trial, no judge, not even an arrest. They were simply murdered, according to the caprice or whim of vengeance-seeking Jews. German officers were assumed to be guilty by virtue of being German officers. They killed anyone they wanted to kill with total impunity. The Jews called it vengeance, but in fact it was simple murder of defenseless men who may or may not have been guilty of anything except having served in the German army in the defense of their country. One of these Jewish executioners, Israel Carmi, explains in Beckman's book how they dealt with their selected targets. Quote, "When we arrived at the home of our suspect, we would put on British military police helmets with the white band and police armlets. Then we would enter the home and take the suspect with us, saying that we wanted him for interrogation. Usually they came without a struggle. Once in the car, we told the prisoner who we were and why we took him. Some admitted guilt, others kept silent. We did the job." Closed quote. That is, they killed him. Quote, "We were burning with hatred," closed quote, they said. "We knew that our people would never forgive us if we did not exploit the opportunity to kill Nazis." Closed quote. Michael Bar Zohar, an Israeli Jew, wrote a book in 1967 titled The Avengers, in which he described the many unbelievable atrocities committed by Jews against defenseless Germans, both civilian and former military, immediately after the war. These mass murders were covered up by the American military to prevent the German public from knowing about them. Just one of the numerous such events he writes about occurred on April 15, 1946, when a group of East European Jews in Germany, because they flooded into Germany at the war's end, with the complicity of Jewish American soldiers, poisoned 3,000 loaves of bread, which were then delivered to a POW camp holding 36,000 German SS prisoners. The poison turned out to have been too diluted, and none of the prisoners died, though thousands became violently ill. In another passage in his book, Bar Zohar describes the enthusiastic joy felt by these Jewish soldiers as they were about to enter Germany immediately following the end of hostilities. They fantasized, he said, about what they would do when they got into Germany, about how they intended to kill German civilians and rape German women. Quote, "But now they were going to Germany. The men discussed the news with great excitement. It was too good to be true. Give us just a month there, only a month, they told each other. We'll give them something to remember us by forever. They'll have real reasons for hating us now. We'll have just one pogrom in round numbers. will burn down 1,000 houses and kill 500 people and rape 100 women." Close quote. And more than one young Jew was heard to say, quote, "I must kill a German in cold blood. I must. And I must rape a German girl. That's our war aim. Revenge." Not Roosevelt's four freedoms or the greater glory of the British Empire or Stalin's ideology, but vengeance. Jewish vengeance. Closed quote. A number of officers in the British Army were aware of what was going on, and several tried to stop it. But the British military command refused to act and turned a blind eye to the Jewish brigade's killing of German officers. Quote, "The commanders of the 8th Army knew what was going on, but they were sympathetic to the brigade." Close quote, Beckman said. The Germans were brutally treated by all occupying armies after the war, causing the deaths of as many as 13 million Germans after the war was over. Only when the Soviets showed themselves to be a threat to the West did the Allies begin to let up on the Germans. They let up on them only because they now needed their cooperation in the Cold War then shaping up. We then changed our tune about the Germans and began to regard them as an integral part of Western civilization. Now, suddenly, they were the good guys. Had we been wrong about them all along? General Patton thought so. After becoming military governor of Bavaria immediately after the war, Patton completely changed his mind about the Germans and began to realize that we had been fighting the wrong enemy. He was fired from his job as military governor of Bavaria and kicked upstairs for refusing to cooperate in Eisenhower's brutal treatment of the defeated Germans. He died soon thereafter under mysterious and suspicious circumstances, many believe as the result of his recalcitrance.